as I'm filming this, it happens to be Tuesday, the election day, but I'm not really going to speak upon that in this video, at least. Who knows if it'll even be done by the end of the day anyway, and it's definitely not nearly as important as to what I talk about on this channel. It's all the game anyway. But what I really want to talk about is the most important, I would say most important period of time that never existed. We know, well, I'm talking about the steampunk era. The steampunk era. This doesn't exist in our history. If you look up when did the steampunk era happen, it's considered to be purely fantasy. Yet we all, in our social consciousness, we all know it to exist. That's why there's so much fantasy about it. And truth is way more crazy than fiction. Whether you believe it to be true or not, whatever, let me explain why I believe it's so important. So the reason why that period of time is deleted from our history is because that would bridge the gap. That would bridge the gap between our most recent period of time, civilization, to where we are today. Because without that, we can believe ignorantly that we are the smartest we have ever been. But if the steampunk era were to be accepted in the narrative, then it would be very clear that we are not the most smartest that we've ever been. And I argue this all the time. I mean, they were much smarter than that, even going further back. But this is just what happens whenever any empire or ruler, government takes over. They rewrite the history. Everyone knows history is told by the conquerors. That's nothing new. That's exactly what happened here, because that was the most important time to get rid of. They left the rest because there's no bridging gap. So as long as we have that little air gap, then people can't make these connections. But it certainly was real. We recognize the way that they wear their clothes, so this probably put them around the, at the latest 1800s and a couple of hundred years before then. And these guys were using free energy. The last time we were using free energy in our current timeline. And that had to be omitted because we're at a point where we pay for energy, for electricity. And if we knew that just a few hundred years ago that it was possible that everyone was using free energy, free electricity, then they couldn't charge us for it. That's where work comes in. Slavery. I mean, it's literally slavery, where you have to work to exist. That is truly and really the most important reason as to why it had to be omitted, and how the new people that came into power had to omit that from the history, and that's all they had to do. And we're left lost thinking we're the smartest, we're so ignorant. And like I was just saying about the way they looked, right? So we recognize the garments and how they dressed to be in the past, yet they were using, or how it's depicted in the fantasies or portrayed, is that they were using free technology, zeppelins, air balloons, and they inherited that technology. It was the last phase really of that technology. It's like they didn't know how to make it, they just knew how to use it, kind of like how we do with the cell phone right now. We know how to work a cell phone, but we don't know how to make a cell phone. So it was the same thing with them. They had inherited that technology, and they were just using it, to the best of their ability, which means they inherited it from beings, us, that created it originally. Not created it, but I mean, I foundationally built it up, and then it had gotten to the point where it was, no one knew where it originally had come from. I don't know if I like that wording, but it's suffice to say they inherited it. They were just using it, and omitting that time period is what's so crucial. So the steampunk era, it changes everything. If we can get this back into our timeline, into our narrative historical timeline, then we can re-understand that we are not the smartest we have ever been. Then we start to trust more as a whole, not that I don't, more as a whole, the older ancient texts, and then realize that these beings were much smarter than us. The philosophers that we still idolize today, like Socrates and such, that were all vegetarians, not eating meat, abstaining from it, their dietary practices, the astrology that they practiced, and how important it was to their daily lives. I mean, once again, J.P. Morgan said millionaires don't care about astrology, billionaires do. Whether you believe in astrology, these beings at the highest level are using astrology. So you can not care and not think it's true, but they use it. So there's something to it. I mean, it's the same thing with the whole rituals, with the blood sacrificing that we see it, at these higher levels. You might not believe that the ritual, that you can do a ritual, but they do. So there's something to it, and they're in way more power. So I just wanted to bring to light how important the steampunk era is, and that it did truly exist. And the sooner we recognize that, the sooner we grow, learn, and heal as an entire consciousness that it did exist, that we are the dumbest we've ever been, which is once again all part of the flow of things, how it has to go, where you hit rock bottom before you can ascend back. You have to hit your lowest low before you hit your highest high. And we're on the precipice of that. The age of Aquarius ending, the Kali Yuga ending, right? And going into a fixed zodiacal sign like Aquarius, coming out of a mutable sign like Pisces, mutable or cardinal. There's more change, more molding happening during that time, so you can't have a golden age. But when you enter a fixed sign, it's much more easy to have a steady, consistent era time where things can prosper. Like it says in older texts, and even in the Bible, whenever it says things are forever, this is forever. If you really get into etymology, which is important, the breakdown of what words really stem from and what they truly mean, ever actually translates to era. It's an age, a time. So forever is for a time, and an era would be anywhere from about 1,000 years to probably 2,100 years, like a zodiacal sign. Like the age of Pisces is 2,100 years, the age of Aquarius is another 2,100 years, each one 2,100 years, forming the 26,000 year cycle, or roughly, of going through all of them. And yeah, it's the most exciting time to be alive. I say this over and over again. Why do you think there's so many people here right now, the most population we've ever had? Because so many people wanted to be here to see this, to experience this for some part of their journey, whether they're not very far along in their journey or far along in their journey. Everyone knew that this was something they didn't want to miss out, an event that they didn't want to miss out. It's not like the older times, the older apocalypses that have been, that we've recorded, because every single time an apocalypse, which is also misunderstood because that is an ending of an era, and the whole point of an apocalypse is to get rid of the lower frequency to allow in the higher frequency, to make room for the higher frequency. And whenever you finally reach a point, because it's building upon itself, when you finally reach a point where we are now, where we have the solar cycle passing, where they also say we're passing through the photon belt. Photon is light, highest frequency is love. You have dwarf planet Sedna making its orbit right now as well, with an 11,400 year orbit, just like solar cycle is a 12,000 year cycle. Sedna is, the myth with Sedna, associated with Sedna, is that of transformation. So everything is pointing to the signs of transformation. We all transform at the same time. That's why everyone wants to be here right now, why it's the most exciting time to be alive right now. And I guess it is a bit ironic. I don't know if ironic, it's fitting that I say this on election day, because there is some degree of importance to that as to what's happening right now. I mean, obviously we know that the presidents really don't have that much pull, but what the act of the election is an important thing because we all believe it to be so, and our belief creates our reality. So this is a very important time right now, because you can't always, I wouldn't even say always, it's almost never that you see something happen and it's just a magical event, a shift. It's, you look back and you're like, oh, it began then, and this, I see to where the point I've gotten now. So in a few months we'll really see what's starting to unfold. This whole year has been full of crazy explosive information brought to light, which is the age of Aquarius. No surprise there. So much more to look forward to, so much exciting things to look forward to, and you can't ask for a better time to be here. That all this doomer stuff, it's what the news and the elites want to push on you, that it's doomsday, reset, that you should be worried about, because like I said with the apocalypse, clearing out the old frequency, the lower frequency, to make room for the new higher frequency. They are the lower frequency. They are a bit worried, and they're trying to instill that onto you. And to even take that a step further, it's a mixture of, you're trying to instill fear, they're trying to instill fear and terror. But with all the misinformation and so much information, the best thing, the most ideal scenario for them is they get you to a point where you don't care. Not caring is actually a lower frequency behind fear, because fear, you'll make a reaction. Not caring, you won't do anything. That's complete and full submittal. And we saw what happened in 2020 with full submittal. So you don't want that, but that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. It's like we see, everything feels like it's crumbling right now, because we got to hit our lowest low, got to hit rock bottom, and then it's the new highest high, the most exciting, awesome ever time to be alive. Maybe not ever, but for us alive right now, and for our grandparents and their grandparents, yeah, it's definitely the most exciting time. So that's all I wanted to say about the steampunk era and how important it is for our timeline to know it, to recognize it, to put the pieces together, to realize that we come from source. We're all part of the one unified intelligence, all of one. We're all going through this journey, and there's really nothing to be afraid of, nothing to be worried about. Everything's going according to plan. So just be happy, be at peace, knowing that everything is going to plan, everything is going to benefit you. But you need to believe that, and that'll make it true. Your belief creates your reality. That's it.